Geselecteerd. Schermopname. Knop. 20:08. Liggend. Hellhunter Densel. Gebied voor directe aanraking.
You have reached meeting point. Saving point. You saved the game to the mansion. Elian, with the new relic, can finally borrow the identity he needed to infiltrate the manor. He made it just in time for the next Dark Assembly. It's time to go to the mansion. This mansion hidden among the mountains is the meeting point of many powerful vampires. Elian is going to enter, so he prepares the relics he obtained for the purpose. You have reached mansion, external stairs, door. There's just the door. No trace of intercoms or other electronic stuff. Windows. The curtains completely cover all the windows. There's no way to see what's inside the mansion. To outside the mansion, to the waiting room. Elian turns into the aberrant vampire. He has the look he had before the pact with the Ancient. So he knocks the door twice. A few moments later, one vampire opens the door and welcomes Elian in disguise. The other vampires are already there. Someone mutters about him. Apparently the vampire that Elian is replacing is notoriously a freak and was missing the meeting for years. Elian needed some clue to figure out the attitude to impersonate, and this way it will be easier to infiltrate. Suddenly a fingernail touches Elian's neck, making him almost scared. She's appeared. Her long and scarlet hair, her eyes. She would draw the attention of anyone inside that room if only they could see her. But that's a privilege which belongs only to Elian. The finger slowly descends toward the right shoulder. During the process, she asks him if he needs some help, for instance. Elian is ready to ignore her as always, but perhaps this time a ghost could be useful as a companion. You have reached mansion, waiting room. Furniture. The furniture looks expensive and elegant, yet they seem anonymous? This mansion is not a home, just a meeting point. Vampire Group 1. Elian gets closer and listens to the conversation. As his main activity in society, the first vampire runs a company which produces wine and sells it all over the nation. The female vampire is a founder member of a cooperative which handles many orphanages in the nation. The last one is a politician of the national government. He works with the Ministry of Tourism. They are discussing the death of the puppeteer vampire, the one that lived inside the lake stronghold. Elian wonders how they knew so quickly that he died, but it seems he was the one who hated Dracula the most, since he suffered most from the lack of technology. In any case, the information traveled fast among them. Elian will be more cautious in future. Elian's companion. She comments about that vampire and wonders how could it be so influential among the group, adding that he was scared as hell when Elian drained his essence. She laughs about it. Elian replies that it's easy to judge someone when people play the role of the torturer, that she should stay on the other side to understand what the victim feels. She seems surprised to hear an answer from Elian. After watching him in silence for some time, She smiles and continues. She wonders then what Elian felt when he finally was on his so-called other side. Making fun of him, she comments that actually, since he's a hunter of creatures of the night, then he's always from the other side, so he should stop being a hypocrite. Elian answers that was different. To be more exact, lately it has been different in general. There was something else, a sensation. She interrupts him, asking if he means pleasure. She smiles a wicked smile, staring Elian straight in his eyes. She says that's correct, that's the feeling. When the prey is harmless and stares at his hunter with those eyes, that's an indescribable pleasure. It could even be the actual reason why a hunter hunts. Elian gets nervous and says that he didn't start for that reason and that sensation. He feels wrong about it. She exposes her neck to Elian, while she caresses the mark on it, the mark of Elian's bite. She asks him then if he felt the same way when she became his prey. Elian is about to reply, but she shuts his mouth, laying 2 fingers on his lips. As she chuckles, she asks him not to say that it was different. It was the same. It was even better. She felt his feelings with all her body. That was. After a brief pause, while staring at the ceiling, she adds that a hunt is a hunt. The only difference is the context. She asks Elian when he made his first right hunt. There's nothing like it. Elian wants to reply, but she already knows and denies his thoughts. After all, the power of Deus was reading logical thoughts. That was not self-defense. Creatures of the night aren't guilty. That's just the cycle of nature. Predator and prey. It's just a bad habit of mankind, thinking that they can't or shouldn't be prey, just because they aren't aware of their predators and think they are special. War works in a similar way, and many other things. Their conversation is interrupted when they notice that the group nearby was watching Elian with an uneasy look. Aside from that, the 3 vampires turn again and continue to talk. Elian didn't expect talking to her would prove so effective. Aside from that reaction, they really didn't seem alarmed or anything else. It looks like, with her, Elian's disguise is just perfect. They can't see her after all, but if the reaction was so mild, then the vampire of the Chaos Tower must have to be a real freak. Vampire Group 2. Elian listens to their conversation from a closer distance. Among those 3 vampires, actually all vampires, one draws attention the most. It looks like he's the CEO of a multinational, of which even Elian has heard about. Unlike all the other vampires, he's dressed like he's at work. He often checks the golden watch on his wrist. He must catch a flight right after the meeting. One of the other 2 is a big data analyst and works for an important company. Elian wonders how he deals with the issue of Dracula, of technology. The last one is a surgeon. Elian can't help but chuckle hearing him. That's quite ironic. His scarlet friend joins him with a good laugh. The group is talking about the plague, which clearly is starting to become a social and economic disaster everywhere. In particular, they are talking about the incident that happened in the capital. Plague aside, the mass murder inside the government palace is the breaking news at the moment. Worldwide. Elian wouldn't expect any less. He just hopes that his face and name are not public knowledge. She claps at Elian and congratulates him with sarcasm for having become so famous. He replies with an annoyed voice that it wasn't what he wanted, that he had no choice. She explodes in a sonorous laugh hearing this. When she stops, she asks him if he's really thinking what he says. She's still wiping her eyes. She continues saying that he had a choice. People always have a choice. Even more nervous, Elian says that he doesn't accept such criticism from a former torturer like her, which has nothing to do with the concept of giving people a choice, and asks her what should he have done then. She wonders if that's the best he can reply. Also, she begs him to not start again with that nonsense. Anyway, she tells him that anyone else could have activated that artifact, even a witch transformed into Elian. Even assuming that they didn't know a spell like that, Elian could still refuse and maybe ask Alucard instead. He surely would have done a clean job, avoiding causing a mass murder with his own actions. She makes fun of Elian on the point of being a vampire hunter and not a hero. She read his thoughts. Even the greater cause of defeating the Lord of Darkness. She said that it's just an excuse to justify his actions. He wanted their death after all. Their actions caused the death of innocents, like that girl. She asks Elian what's the difference between them and Dracula with his army. Both leaders sit on their chair while giving orders, and their pawns execute. After thinking about it for a while, she exclaims that she knows the difference. Dracula is isolated from the rest of the world. If Elian thinks about it, he never leaves his castle, and, to be honest, the same could be said for his army. She asks him if he ever had to fight a monster which wasn't from the local place, except Anti-Nomen. Elian already knows the answer. She continues, saying that the difference is that actually Dracula himself causes the death of almost no one, compared to the other vampires, compared to the government, compared to mankind, compared to Elian. Hearing the last sentence, Elian bashes his arm against the wall next to her. His fist is a few centimeters from her head. She smiles an amused smile. Then she caresses Elian's face with her right hand and tells him that she wouldn't mind knowing what would happen next. Yet all the other guests are looking at him, and she's a little embarrassed. She invites him to save the best for later. Maybe for when they will be alone, if he wants. Elian turns around and, in fact, she's right. They are staring at him. After some seconds, they slightly turn their heads and mutter something. Then they continue speaking among themselves, as before. Even if his disguise is working better than he expected, Elian should still control himself better than that. Still, she knows exactly what to say to tease him. Paintings. Even the paintings don't convey any personality, despite the variety. Vampire Group 2. It's incredible how well Elian fits the role. He doesn't even have to act. Paintings. Even the paintings don't convey any personality. Chalices. On one side of the room, there's a table. On it, many chalices have been filled with blood. It must be the typical start to an evening for vampire meetings. The others have already picked their chalice and still hold it while chatting. Elian is a Dhampir, so he has no problem in doing the same. He picks a chalice and sips it calmly. As expected, it's fresh and tasty. The standard for high-ranking vampires. On one side of the room, there's a table. On it, many chalices. Vampire Group 3. Elian is trying to calm down a bit. He gets closer to the group and listens. There's another woman. She's a bank manager of a bank scattered all over the nation. The one who's chatting right now is involved in transport. But Elian doesn't understand in what capacity. It sounds fishy. The other vampire is a magistrate. Seems like the Alliance has contacts with every sector. They are talking about the recent news. It seems like the bank manager made a lot of money messing with stocks. What bothers the magistrate is the fact that the Alliance has discovered that the Black Scroll has been stolen from the catacombs of Oblivion. They suspect that someone inside the Alliance could be a traitor. But since it wouldn't make any sense for a member to steal the Black Scroll, they jump to the conclusion that it's the doing of someone from the outside. Even if they are talking about Elian, at the moment he doesn't care at all. He's still nervous from what she said before. He turns toward her and tells her to take back what she said. With an expression of pity, she asks him what she should take back exactly. She wonders if maybe he's talking about everything, since the truth hurts a lot. But that's it. She won't wait for a reply from Elian and continues with a harsh voice. She asks him if maybe he's annoyed because she compared him to Dracula, his arch-nemesis. She makes fun of Elian and tells him that he's just following Alucard, guided by his own private reason and nothing else. Besides, she bluntly tells him that Dracula is not his arch-nemesis. On the other hand, Elian is just one of his victims. That's the actual bond between him and the Lord of Darkness, which is not much different from the bond he had with her. Elian is very nervous. Anyway, he doesn't understand where she's going with her speech. With a louder voice, he asks her what the hell does she want from him. She smiles. Then she replies that the true question should rather be, what the hell does Elian want? She doesn't care about whether Elian's actions are right or wrong, but rather if they are coherent with himself or not. She adds that she wonders how Elian could hope to face Dracula if he's not even able to face himself. Elian makes fun of the fact that, said in that way, it would look like she's an expert in him instead. He also replies that she doesn't know anything about him. Suddenly she makes a serious expression and looks Elian in the eyes. She says that at least she saw him, straight to his face, his darkest side. The one from which Elian kept running away until now. She says that the fact that he keeps seeing her is the proof about what she's saying. Elian asks her what she meant by that, but she replies that she meant exactly what she said. Before Elian can say another word, the owner of the mansion arrives and tells the guests that they can finally go inside the entertainment hall. Chalices. Vampire Group 3. When they look at Elian, they make an unpleasant face. Surely they don't miss that vampire. To the external stairs. South exit. East exit. Furniture. East, south exit. Elian crosses the door. There's a very wide room. A sort of stage monopolizes most of the space. It's situated in the lowest part of the room. The side from where they enter is about 3 meters above the stage. There are enough seats for everyone, which face toward the stage. It seems like a little theater. The other vampires take their seats. By a funny coincidence, 2 adjacent seats are free. She can't help but point it out to Elian and invites him to go there. He accepts and she chuckles. Looks like she's in a good mood. You have reached Mansh stage. To the waiting stage. It's a wooden stage. The shape is slightly different from those in theaters. There's no artificial light, just candles and torches. Curtain. The curtain is closed. It should open in a moment. Empty seats. To the waiting room. Empty seats. She precedes Elian and sits on the first of the 2 places, so he sits on the other place. Elian didn't know that there was a show on the schedule today. He doesn't have any idea what will happen on the stage. Anyway, he notices strong amusement on the expressions of the other vampires. Their sick smiles are what Elian didn't want to see. Even the CEO stopped watching that damn watch for a second. Elian's attention suddenly gets drawn from her. She starts to chuckle and seems really intrigued by the show. With a nervous voice, Elian asks her why she's in such a good mood. She turns toward him. She wonders if he's asking about the show or in general. About the show, she asks him, with her typically sadistic smile. How much longer he wants to pretend to not know what's gonna happen. The question is not what's gonna happen, but rather, she says, chuckling tastefully, how it will happen. Anyway, she continues saying that what actually puts her in a good mood is the fact that finally they are talking for the first time. They are making some progress. Elian wants to know what she was saying before they entered this hall. She looks at him silently for some seconds, changing expressions. Then she tells him that this is the problem. Elian doesn't even realize what the point is. He can't keep going on that way. He's annoyed and just asks her to answer, without playing around. But her gaze this time is different. She's looking him straight in the eyes. She's not joking at all. Seeing that, Elian waits for a moment and calms down. He asks her to explain to him. She thinks about how to explain it properly. Starting from that moment, she starts to talk about herself in the third person. She says that she's not sure about what Elian feels for Deus, but she's pretty sure that he doesn't hate her for real. Elian is perplexed. She continues, adding that he actually needs her. He's using her as a shield, as an excuse. She raises her voice with an angry tone. She asks him why he doesn't stop summoning her. She asks him if he's still not satisfied, even after killing her, just because in that way it's easier to look aside. She tells him that the least he could do for Deus would be to stop calling her image in vain. Elian doesn't even know how to begin to reply. That was really sudden. After lowering her voice, she tells him that until he looks his dark side straight in the face, she won't stop haunting him. A few seconds later, the curtain opens. That interrupts them. They turn towards the stage. The owner of the mansion announces the entrance of the actors. He's glad to welcome them, direct from the capital. They are a group of humans. They are chained and enslaved. Their eyes are lost. Some of them desperately hang their hands to the rags of someone else. She laughs out loud and claps at them. Actually, even the other vampires do the same. She resumes talking normally and tells Elian that it's exactly like she said. It doesn't require a genius to figure out that these people are the ones that the government of the capital continued to sequester. Dictature aside, they must be one of the favors that the government exchanged with the alliance of vampires to maintain their agreement. As she said before, she says that humans are no better than vampires and all the other creatures of the night. The only real difference is the fact that most of mankind is not aware that even humans can be preyed on by other predators. That's all. Now she invites Elian with a smile to enjoy the show. She grants him that it will be fun. After the instruments are brought onto the stage, the atmosphere quickly changes. The show has begun. The spectators are anxious, taken in by the scene. Elian is watching with disgust. Scream after scream, the thing just gets worse. She's enjoying this sight. She comments that it's not exactly her genre, but she admits that the vampire really knows what he's doing. Elian is starting to sweat. Almost an hour has passed. How long will it last? The meeting should start before midnight. When he thinks it can't get any worse, the vampire pulls out that tool, and then, from the seats, suddenly they all exclaim with great surprise. Some of the vampires say that they never saw such a thing. This time he's outdone himself. Few are even a little shocked. She partially covers her mouth with her hands, but her smug expression is unequivocal. She says that not even she dared to do such a thing in her life. Elian can't believe his eyes. That's Elian's shaking. Blood and screams take turns, non-stop. All he can perceive is blood, screams, claps. More blood, tools, impressed voices, screams, cries. Blood, blood, screams, cries, blood and more blood. Elian can't handle this. She asks him what the hell would he want to do. Saving them is out of the question. She says that he can't win against 10 high-ranked vampires at the same time. She tells him to not get arrogant. Just because he can defeat them taken individually. She adds that if he tries to do such a thing, then he's not a vampire hunter or a hero. Just a fool. So she tells him to shut up, stay there and follow the plan of the mission. That woman on the stage, she won't last much longer. The vampire is getting closer. If Elian wants to do something, then now is the moment. He must decide. Swipe left to jump on the stage and save her. Swipe right to stay sat. And Elian stands up. He dashes faster than wind and swiftly makes a slash on the arm of the vampire on the stage. Elian shouts at them with all his rage that the show has ended and that he will exterminate them. The wounded vampire dashes backward. With a gesture of his hand, he calls the rest of the Alliance. They immediately jump on the stage and arrange into a strategic battle formation. The melee fighters partially surround Elian. The spellcasters place themselves at the edge of the stage. In the middle, the most versatile members take their positions, and finally the owner of the mansion stands in front of the spellcasters to protect them. He's clearly the leader, and he's coordinating the moves of the Alliance. They are rehearsed as a team. Their union clearly bypasses the simple sum of their strength. This is even worse than Elian had expected. People already hide behind the curtain. Elian prepares for the battle. Is this really the end? Battle. Elian is poisoned. Elian is poisoned. Elian is defeated. Seems like this is the end. Double tap to continue. As expected, it was just impossible to win against 10 of them. Elian's legs are about to give way. She whispers to him. Elian didn't notice the moment at which she arrived behind him. After having chuckled, she tells him that this is the right punishment for his inadequacy. Then she adds that Elian doesn't have to worry. She will lend him a hand. After saying that, she caresses his neck. Her fingers slowly slip toward his left shoulder. They stop right where she marked him, before dying. There's no trace of her bite anymore. Then she sinks her jaws into that point. Again. When she finishes, she says to Elian that she will wait for him on the other side. Then she says goodbye and disappears. Elian turns for a second, but she's not there anymore. The vampires are getting closer. Elian's consciousness is fading. Everything is black. After some time, Elian slowly opens his eyes. The first thing he can see are his hands. They are soaked with blood. Elian looks around. There's an eerie silence. Now he hears only the noise of the flames of the torches which are near the stage. He looks closer at the stage. There's a huge pool of blood. Elian is surrounded by blood everywhere. Just what the hell is happening? He's alone at the center of the stage. On a closer look, he notices that among the blood there are red masses of ash. They are of the same color of the blood. There are 10 masses in total. Did he really slay all the vampires? Elian doesn't remember what happened after he fainted. Something is wrong. Not just this scene. Elian doesn't feel well. Something inside him. He has a feeling that sooner or later he will lose his control. Like when he killed Deus. Anyway, Elian noticed that there's no trace of the humans which were on the stage. He hopes that they manage to escape and leave towards the capital. Whatever happened, Elian must accomplish his mission. Inside the meeting room, there should be some useful information about the meeting of today. It's worth checking it out. To the waiting room. Stay. Curtain. Empty seat. To the waiting room. You have reached Mansion East exit. Elian is still wheezing. His steps leave bloody footprints behind him. The room he just entered doesn't have other doors. What he's searching for is probably here. You have reached Mansion Table. There's a U-shaped table at the center of the room. It's wide enough to allow up to 15 people, at least, to have a seat at it. Typical for a meeting of important people. Drawers. Under the table there are many drawers. Since there's nothing on the table, perhaps Elian would have more luck with the drawers. Elian opens a drawer. There's a lot of documentation, but it has nothing to do with the meeting. Elian is getting nervous. He's not used to losing his calm so quickly. On a second try, he finds something useful. It's the program schedule for today. On it, there are all the arguments that should have been treated today. Each argument has a brief description. Elian checks the content. There's much useful information on their movements. Still, what draws the attention of Elian is one of the last arguments. They are talking about a creature called Forgotten One. According to the text below, he's a colossal being with an immense power. He's sealed inside a prison, which is hidden in the middle of nowhere. Elian takes note of the location. On a note, they talk about a plan to completely restore the body of that Forgotten One. But there's nothing else about that argument. Elian should ask Alucard about that creature. He bets he knows something. He also needs to know how to deal with his current situation. He needs his help. Elian is finished here. He wants to talk to Alucard as soon as possible. Candles. Even here, there are the same magic candles that Elian found inside the catacombs of Oblivion. Air duct. Elian in mist form passes through the air duct and reaches a secret room. Inside the room there are rare treasures, many documents, and ancient furniture. You have reached Mansion Treasures. The room is scattered with many rare jewels. There are even ancient artifacts and relics. Demijohn. The Demijohn is partially filled with blood. Probably most of it has been used during the meeting. Anyway, what's left inside is enough to make Elian get 3 blood vials. The Demijohn is empty. Casket. Inside the casket, there's a weird piece of artifact. Documents. There are even more documents. Most of them are secret agreements and other stuff related to their secondary activities. There's even some other secret plan. But at this point, there's no need to investigate further. To the meeting room. You have reached mansion. To the waiting air duct. To the waiting room. You have reached east exit, south exit. You have reached mansion. To the waiting room. You have reached mansion east, south to the external stairs. You have reached mansion to the way to outside the man. Elian finally returns to the meeting point. His breath is more intense, his heartbeat is faster. But Alucard didn't return yet. He needs to know how to deal with the current situation. Perhaps it's best to wait for him, while sitting on a rock. You have reached meeting saving point. You saved the game. Tree.